I'm wondering what your intentions are. Sorry, I'm new to you in this, and I was just intrigued.
Sure. Hear from different ideas and see where we agree and disagree. So,
Yeah. What's like your purpose though? Like communication, yes, but like what ideas are you trying to bring or like help people understand?
conservative ones, traditional
Like,
American ones.
oh, okay, like traditional conservatism or like modern conservative
Uh,
right wing because they like switched.
I don't like
About, like,
labels,
50
so you
years
can
ago.
ask me about a
Oh,
topic.
cool.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I think there's only two
Topic.
sexes, no genders, infinite personalities. Life begins at conception. We should deport all the illegals, right?
Yeah.
So these are just some of my opinions. So.
So you think it'll like make the country better? Like what are you
Yeah, I mean, I hope that number one, I want to support our amazing Turning Point USA chapter here, where they
Right.
feel outnumbered and isolated. Number two, we're promoting our event tonight, so I hope you guys show up. Where's our event? It's like in the Montezuma Hall or something. Yeah, it's great. Montezuma Hall, Montezuma, whatever. And number
Yeah.
three is I want to see where I might be wrong, strengthen my arguments, and anybody can say anything to me. I think that free speech is the last best hope we have in Western society.
Nice. Okay, then I have a question about like women's rights
Please.
in America. I just want to hear what you think,
Sure.
like where you think we're at, how you think we could better
Yeah.
them.
Can you, just so I know where you're coming from, can you
Right.
tell me what is a woman?
Oh, that's a great question. I would classify a woman as somebody with a womb and or a vagina. Sometimes
Okay.
people are born with either one or the other, but
Good. We agree. Yes. So as far as women's rights, I don't separate rights based on sex. So you have to tell me what you mean based on that. So.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So do you believe that there's a difference right now in like people's rights and
No. I mean, there's male-female differences, but there are no male rights or women. Can you give me an example
oh,
of?
okay, like patriarchy, that's what I'm getting at. Do
Okay.
you believe that we live in a patriarchy and it negatively affects women?
No.
No.
Yeah. So for example,
Yeah.
men are more likely to commit suicide,
Yeah.
more likely to die at work, more likely to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Women are far less likely to be in credit card debt, far more likely to graduate from college,
Yeah.
far more likely to get a high-paying job.
Do you think that that's a really good point. Do you
Thank you.
think that the suicide rates or the depression rates and the bankruptcy rates that you just mentioned regarding men have to do with the fact that men are pushed to be less open about their emotions? They're less available to being able to communicate how they feel with others. They're taught to be more violent and be more physically harmful to themselves and others. And do you think that pushes them towards suicide, depression, and bankruptcy?
And I think it's the opposite. I think that we're teaching men to be metrosexual versions of their former selves.
What does metrosexual mean to you?
Indecipherable between a man and woman.
Oh.
So,
What's a
people that-
man and woman to you? What's the difference between them?
Well, a man isn't. You're looking at a man, and I think I'm looking at a woman, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice,
right?
yeah.
and-
That was
and-
funny.
Yeah, there's. Yeah, thank you. There's
Yeah, that was good.
there's characteristics, archetypes, but we have
You're
we have
smart.
differences.
Yeah.
There are significant male-female differences. And I think
Like
those.
what?
Well, men tend to be more assertive. Women tend to be more agreeable
Innately or taught?
innately, and I wouldn't say
Innately
taught.
based on what science?
Well, just for example, if we look at artificial intelligence scanned over 10,000 brains using a SPECT scan,
Yeah.
and was able to determine male-female differences 95% of the time of different brain functions based on basal ganglia, amygdala,
Do you know the age?
cerebellum.
Because interestingly enough, I
Ages
read
14
a
to
study.
22, yeah.
Okay, 14 to 22. I read a study recently that before the age of 10, brains are. Neuroscientists are unable to be able to tell the difference in gender based on the brain, but at a certain point, the social implications that children are taught start making them act differently. But it's been shown that if a man or a woman were given the same, okay, have you heard that men they have more spatial awareness, like in their brain? Have you heard that one?
I think that's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, so we learned that if women are given a month of the same practices as children that men are given or allowed to do, whether it comes to what they're playing, the media they're intaking, like what they're told and how they're told to act, that women have the same spatial awareness ability as men. So we're finding that innately the brain is the same, but because of the social constructs that we're taught on men and women and how they're supposed to act, their brain ability to activate certain parts changes. So by 14, the brain
Yeah.
does seem different.
You raised kids?
Tell me?
Have you ever raised kids?
No, I have 6 nieces and nephews,
Yeah,
though, men and women.
You couldn't be more wrong. if you're even around a 2-year-old boy and 2-year-old girl, it's not a matter of what they're taught. The girls are running to the dresses, the boys are running to the guns. You know who agrees with me? One of the leading feminists of the 60s and 70s, Gloria Steinman, who wrote Feminist Mystique.
Yes,
and
I've read that.
Even she, who was like a hardcore gender is taught, when she raised her kids, she was like, oh my goodness, there is a fundamental innate difference between men and women. And it's not just brain structure.
Right.
It's testosterone, it's estradiol, it's estrogen production, it is hormone levels, it is all, and there, I could just prove it. If you sit down with a young lady, they're far more likely to talk about micro topics, and men are more likely to talk about macro topics.
What's the difference between micro and macro?
Great question. So if I sat down with a young lady, she'd be much more likely to talk about friends, relationships, and things that are very intimate to her. A young man would be more likely to talk about the weather, sports, or the stock market, or politics.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not taught. That is innate into our bio-programming.
This robotic puppy is so lifelike it actually fooled my neighbor who's a veterinarian. I've been a grandmother for...
It's bioprogramming?
How we were designed.
What do you mean how we were designed?
I mean, I believe that there's a creator that designed us and that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you might not agree. I would just say how you were born, I could even say, just to come to common ground on that.
Oh, okay, so the creator chose that men and women have separate roles and it's innate.
Well, not just separate roles, but made differently, and out of being made differently, you get different roles.
Right. So if science proves that the other way, do you rely on creator over science?
But science has done the opposite. So, for example, in a Harvard study, they put 50 women in a room alone, and they put 50 men in the room alone.
What age?
Not relevant, but around 25, right?
Relevant. Okay.
So.
No, sorry. I'm actually having so much fun.
Okay.
Sorry. Keep going.
So if you really, I'm fascinated that you think that 8-year-olds' brains are infinitely neuroplastic, but we'll get to that back to that later.
No,
So,
when they're like babies. By 8 years old, you're already going through school and you've had so many relationships, they're definitely affected.
But again, if you were right, John Money would have been proven right, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So, that test has been replicated so many times, and even the Dutch, who are like the most progressive on this, have gotten away from the idea of tabula rasa, that boys and girls are born similarly with brain differences. But we'll agree to disagree on that. But anyway, 25-year-olds were put into a room, okay?
Right.
And they said, men, what do you think about when they're alone? No surprise, sports and sex,
Yeah.
right? Young ladies, what do you think about in the room alone for 30 minutes just by themselves? They replayed prior conversations that they had. For the record, no man in the history of the species has replayed conversations that we had and thought about them when we were alone in a room. Like, what conversation, what was this person said? Women are far more relational, micro, than men. And that's just based on how our design is.
Whoa. I think that you just lied that all men don't think. That's such a...
It's called a joke. I'm sure there's a man
okay.
somewhere that recollected on a conversation.
Well, I didn't know that in a dialect that's a debate based on science and you're talking about a study. That would you implement a joke that's based on a
Yes,
truth?
humor is a tool of a rhetorician to try to get people, to chuckle, a little levity. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. Do you think testosterone and estrogen play into people's ability to have drive, ambition, feelings? Do you think testosterone and estrogen are important?
Yes.
Okay, so then if women are lower in testosterone and higher in estrogen, and men are lower in estrogen and higher in testosterone, wouldn't that, independent of society's framing, play into the idea that there are natural differences between the two?
I think that it definitely plays into the idea that there are natural differences. And I think there are natural differences. I just think to an extent that as a society we've decided that men, because they have more testosterone, and we've known testosterone makes people more aggravated, what's aggravated, I'll just leave it.
Aggressive?
Aggressive, yes, sure.
I'll take aggressive.
Yeah, thank you. That it makes people, or men, more aggressive, that we've decided that means that men are not in control of their moral ability or their ability to choose what they're going to do. So it becomes like men have more testosterone, but they still have the ability to choose to treat people better or with less aggression. Like it's like, oh, men don't have the ability to make those choices. That's almost like downplaying men's ability by saying that they just have to give in to their aggression.
I'm not contesting that. The mark of a true man is one who can control himself.
Okay.
Do you think that do you think there's a problem of trying to turn women too masculine?
Turning women too masculine. What's masculine for you?
Well, let's just say not agreeable, forceful, aggressive, aggressive in the best possible term, forward-thinking, more macro, more visionary, less feeling-based, more rational, more yearning towards reason and dialogue, and less towards compassion or the ethos.
And what's feminine to you?
The inverse of that, so more on the emotion side, less